ahead. What did you think of the move?
Yeah, I mean, it was smart, and I think what they gave up for him, a third that could become a second if they make it to the championship, totally worth it for a team that's all in. As far as Davante Adams, the player, this is an offense where timing matters a great deal, and I think we have seen over the course of the first few weeks that timing has been off in key moments. Bringing in Davante Adams, who has better chemistry with Aaron Rodgers than most receivers ever in the NFL, it's a no-brainer, especially when you think back to last night. The Jets lost that game in large part because they didn't produce in the red zone. I don't think they go 1 for 4 in the red zone if Davante Adams is on this team. I also love what it does for the rest of the team. We were talking about this before the show. Number of things. I think defenses will play significantly less man coverage against the Jets, which they've been unafraid to do. Aaron Rodgers is going to see a lot more shell coverage, which I think he's very good at picking apart. It's going to help the run game. Breece Hall is going to get more light boxes. He looked good running into those last night. And then finally, Garrett Wilson. I mean, what a problem for opposing defenses, covering both those guys at once. It's awesome.
I covered it all. That's the impact. Everyone's better because of it. It has the visions of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Davante, A.J. Brown, where it's very simply put, you put Davante out there by himself and say, hey, Aaron, if you like Davante, throw it to him. Yep. If not, we can run the football like Mina's talking about with light boxes. Aaron's going to control the line of scrimmage. We can get Garrett Wilson on matchups. Allen Lazard's going to get more favorable matchups. The offensive line's going to have to block less in shorter amounts of times because the ball is going to get out quicker. So the amount of impact and the butterfly effect, it's rare that a receiver does this to an offense. He is one that makes everybody's job easier and better. Does this fix their issue? No. Their issue is details. They got to get more detail obsessed. The better players, the less details are needed essentially to play good football.
And on top of that, for Aaron Rodgers, to your point, this is an all-in organization at the moment, right? We don't know what we have left of Aaron. We have this really good team now. We have to win. When you think about those details and what Aaron needs from the offense, he now has a player that he doesn't have to coach those with. He doesn't have to question whether or not he understands the timing of what this play is.
Where the back shoulder is going to be.
Or the back shoulder. Or are you on the red line and have the proper spacing, right? That's important. And the big question will be, well, what happens to Garrett Wilson? Well, what Garrett Wilson does really well, he separates, and he's great after the catch. Well, now he's not going to be going against a team's top corner.
Don't you think it helps Garrett?
It does help Garrett. It does help. There's going to be less targets, right? The more targets you have as a receiver, you understand, the more opportunities, but they're going to be more valuable targets. The situations he's going to be in those targets, he's not going to be going against the top defender.
Right.
He's going to have a lot more one-on-one.
Easier.
He's going to be able to get open in more places. He moves around, and with Davante Adams, there's going to be so much attention to him that he'll be able to actually probably elevate his game.
I think for the sake of not being repetitive, because all of y'all said the impact he has on the team, but this is a playoff move. Like the playoffs, 100%. The playoffs are about players. And y'all hear me say it every year. Pat Mahomes' legs come into play in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson winning games because he's a playmaker. Obviously, the season is not going how they want it to go, and he can help rectify that. But it's when you get into the dance is what Woody Johnson is thinking from an ownership perspective. We got to put playmakers around, and the familiarity that him and Aaron has can pay dividends in critical situations in playoff games. So for me, that's what the move really entailed. Because if they didn't feel like they were a playoff team, you don't trade for Davante Adams.
I agree.
Right? They do. I mean, and just a couple things, from being on the game call last night, watching Aaron Rodgers, he is still trying to coach up those receivers throughout the game. So this does give him a comfort level. He's trying to get the ball out so quick, Dan, and we did see the scheme change with Todd Downing taking over the play calling. Some things looked a little different. There's still a lot that's the same. How does Davante fit into that?
He could play today. I honestly believe that if the Jets had a game and on Tuesday Night Football, Davante could step out there and play. The motions, they don't do a ton of it. They did much more last night. Obviously had a massive benefit. I think Davante will seamlessly step into this offense, and I'm not going to be surprised, honestly, if he plays Sunday night and the first snap of the game goes to Davante. I remember when the Rams acquired OBJ. The first pass of the game, they threw him a hitch route against the San Francisco 49ers. I think that Davante will step it right in. Mina's point about the red zone impact is probably going to be the one that gets felt the best.
Yeah. But Jets, by the way, after the trade, the Jets' odds to win the AFC East dropped from plus 650 to plus 500 at ESPN Bet. So definitely an impact felt there. Mina, specifically to that, the red zone woes. I mean, if you look back just at last night's game, it's a key divisional game. So that's what they're thinking about when it comes to playoffs. if they had been able to score in the red zone, the game probably looks a little bit different. No discredit to the Bills. They did their job.
Yeah, it's not wrong, although obviously they had a Hail Mary, missed field goals, crazy game. I think, though, with red zone in particular, this is an area where you talk about players playing the playoffs. That's what really matters in the red zone. I mean, you can have cool play calls, and I'm sure Todd Downing will do a better job of that than what we've seen. But so the chemistry between the receiver and the quarterback is so important in the tight red area. And we have seen time and time again, Aaron Rodgers, when the ball comes out so quick, it's because he knows Davante Adams is going to get open and catch it.
And don't forget, in Green Bay, they threw so many touchdown passes on like RPOs at like the 2-yard line.
Yeah.
Where it was a one-stepper or a quick fade or a one-step slant. They haven't had that in New York.
And I guess we're buying that just they immediately get right back together and they play just how they always were before.
100%.
Okay.